Thus have I heard on one occasion the Blessed One was living at Sawati in Jeta's Grove, Anathan Pendika's Park. Then, when it was morning, a number of monks dressed and taking their bowl and outer robes went into Sawati for alms. Then they thought it's still too early to wander for alms in Sawati. Suppose we went to a park of the wanderers of other sects. So they went to the park of wanderers of other sects and exchanged greetings with the wanderers. When this courteous and amiable talk was finished, they sat down at one side. The wanderers said this to them: Friend, the recluse Gautama describes the full understanding of sensual pleasures, and we do so too. The recluse Gautama describes the full understanding of material form, and we do so too. The recluse Gautama describes the full understanding of feelings, and we do so too. What then is the distinction here? What is the variance? What is the difference between the recluse Gautama's teaching of the Dhamma and ours? Between his instructions and ours? Then those monks Then those monks neither approved nor disapproved of the wanderer's words. Without doing either, they rose from their seat and went away thinking, we shall come to understand the meaning of these words in the Blessed One's presence. I imagine that was fairly frustrating for the people asking the questions. When they had wandered for alms in Sawati and had returned from their alms round after the meal, they went to the Blessed One. After paying homage to him, they sat down one side and told him all that had taken place. The Blessed One said, Monks, wanderers of other sects who speak thus should be questioned thus. But friends, what is gratification? What is the danger? What is the escape in the case of sensual pleasures? What is the gratification? What is the danger? And what is the escape in the case of material forms? What is the gratification? What is the danger? And what is the escape in the case of feelings? Being questioned thus, wanderers of other sects will fail to account for the matter. And what is more, they will get into difficulties. Why is that? Because it is not in their province. Monks, I see no one in the world with its gods, its maras, and its brahmas, in this generation with its recluses and brahmins, with its princes and its people, who could satisfy the mind with a reply to those questions, except for the Tathagata or his disciple, or one who has learned from them. And what, friends, is the gratification in the case of sensual pleasures? There are these 5 chords of sensual pleasure. What are the 5? Forms cognizable through the eye that are wished for, desired, agreeable and likable, connected with sensual desire and inviting lust. Sounds cognizable by the ear that are wished for, desired, agreeable and likable, connected with sensual desire and inviting lust. Odors cognizable by the nose that are wished for, desired, agreeable and likable, connected with sensual desire and inviting lust. Flavors cognizable by the tongue that are wished for, desired, agreeable and likable, connected with sensual desire and inviting lust. Tangibles cognizable by the body that are wished for, desired, agreeable and likable, connected with sensual desire and inviting lust. These are the 5 chords of sensual pleasure. Now the pleasure and joy that arise dependent on these 5 chords of sensual pleasure are the gratification in the case of sensual pleasures. And what, monk, is the danger in the case of sensual pleasures? Here, monks, on account of the craft by which clansmen make a living, whether checking or accounting or calculating or farming or trading or husbandry or archery or the royal service or whatever craft it may be, he has to face cold, he has to face heat. He is injured by contact with gadflies, mosquitoes, wind, sun, and creeping things. He risked death by hunger and thirst. Now, this is the danger in the case of sensual pleasures, a mass of suffering visible here and now. Having sensual pleasures as its cause, sensual pleasures as its source, sensual pleasures as its basis, the cause being simply sensual pleasures. If no property comes to the clansman, while he works and strives and makes an effort thus, he sorrows, grieves, and laments, weeps, beating his breast, and becomes distraught, crying, "My work is in vain, my effort is fruitless." Now, this too is the danger in the case of sensual pleasures, a mass of suffering visible here and now, the cause being simply sensual pleasures. If property comes to the clansman while he works and strives and makes an effort thus, he experiences pain and grief in protecting it. How shall, how shall neither kings nor thieves make off with my property or burn, nor fire burn it, nor waters sweep it away, nor hateful airs make off with it. And as he guards and protects his property, kings or thieves make off with it, or fire burns it, or water sweeps it away, or hateful airs come and make off with it. And he sorrows, grieves, and laments. He weeps, beating his breast, and becomes distraught, crying, "What I had, I have no longer." Now, this too is a danger in the case of sensual pleasures, a mass of suffering visible here and now, the cause being simply sensual pleasures. Again, sensual pleasures as the cause, sensual pleasures as the source, sensual pleasures as the basis, the cause being simply sensual pleasures. Kings quarrel with kings, nobles, Brahmins, nobles with nobles, Brahmins with Brahmins, householders with householders. Mother quarrel with son, son with mother, father with son, son with father, Brother quarrels with brother, brother and sister, sister with brother, friend with friend. And here, in their quarrels, brawls, and dispute, they attack each other with fists, clods, sticks, or knives, whereby they incur death or deadly suffering. Now this too is a danger in the case of sensual pleasures. A massive suffering here and now, and the cause simply being sensual pleasures. Again, with sensual pleasures as the cause, men take swords and shields and buckle on bows and quivers, and they charge into battle, massed in a double array of arrows and spears flying and swords flashing. And there they are wounded by arrows and spears, and their heads are cut off by swords, whereby they incur death or deadly suffering. Now this too is a danger in the case of sensual pleasure, a massive suffering here and now, the cause being simply sensual pleasures. Again, with sensual pleasures as the cause, men take swords and shields and buckle on bows and arrows, and they charge slippery bastions with arrows and spears flying and swords flashing. And there they are wounded by arrows and spears and slashed with boiling liquids and crushed with heavy weights, and their heads are cut off by swords. Hereby they incur death or deadly suffering. Now this too is a danger in the case of sensual pleasures, a massive suffering here and now, the cause being simply sensual pleasures. Again, with sensual pleasures as the cause, men break into houses, plunder wealth, commit burglary, ambush highways, seduce others' wives, and when they're caught, kings have many kinds of torture inflicted on them. The kings have them flogged with whips, beaten with canes, beaten with clubs. They have their hands cut off, their feet cut off, their hands and feet cut off, their ears cut off, their nose cut off, their ears and nose cut off. They have them subjected to porridge pot, to polish shell shaving. That's when they take the skin off with a shell. Porridge pot is being boiled, basically. To Rahu's mouth. Rahu's mouth is hot, boiling lead poured into the mouth. To the fiery wealth, to the flaming hand, to the blaze of grass, where they had to hold a lump of grass, to the bark dress, and they put metal things in and then make them wear the dress wherever they, whenever it moves, it just cuts their body. If you want to find out about how to do torture, you always go to the holy books. To the antelope, I'm not sure what that is. To the meat hooks, to red hot coins, to lye pickling, to the pivoting pin, to the rolled up palace, I'm not sure what that is either. And they have them splashed with boiling oil, and they throw them down to be devoured by dogs. They have them impaled alive on stakes, and they have their heads cut off with swords, whereby they incur death or deadly suffering. Now this too is a danger in the case of sensual pleasures. You would think so. A mass of suffering here and now, the cause being simply sensual pleasures. Again, with sensual pleasures as the cause, sensual pleasures as the source, sensual pleasures as the basis, the cause being sensual pleasures. People indulge in misconduct of body, speech, and mind. Having done so, on the dissolution of the body after death, they reappear in a state of deprivation, in an unhappy destination, even in hell. Now this is a danger in the case of sensual pleasures, a mass of suffering in the life to come. Having sensual pleasures as its cause, sensual pleasures as its source, sensual pleasures as its basis, the cause simply being sensual pleasures. And what, monks, is the escape in the case of sensual pleasures? It is the removal of desire and lust, the abandonment of desire and lust for sensual pleasures. This is the escape in the case of sensual pleasures. That those recluses and Brahmins who do not understand as it actually is the gratification as gratification, the danger as danger, and the escape as escape in the case of sensual pleasures, can neither themselves fully understand sensual pleasures or instruct another so he can fully understand sensual pleasures. That is impossible. That those recluses and Brahmins who understand as it actually is, the gratification is gratification, the danger is danger, and the escape is escape, in the case of sensual pleasures, can either themselves fully understand sensual pleasures or instruct another so he can fully understand sensual pleasures. That is possible. And what, monks, is the gratification in the case of material form? Suppose there were a girl of noble class, or a Brahmin class, or a householder's stock, or in her 15th or 16th year, neither too tall nor too short, neither too thin nor too fat, neither too dark nor too fair. Is her beauty and loveliness then at its height? Yes, Venerable Sir. Now, pleasure and joy that arises in dependence on the beauty and loveliness are the gratification in this case of material form. And what, monks, is the danger in the case of material form? Later on, one might see that same woman here at 80, 90, or 100 years aged, as crooked as a roof, bracketed, doubled up, supported by a walking stick, tottering, frail, her youth gone, her teeth broken, gray-haired, scanty-haired, bald, wrinkled, with limbs all blotchy. What do you think, monks? Has her former beauty and loveliness vanished and the danger become evident? So the thing is, don't get old. Yes, Venerable Sir. Monks, this is a danger in the case of material form. Again, one might see that same woman afflicted and suffering and gravely ill, lying fouled in her own urine and excrement, lifted up by some and set down by others. What do you think, monks? Has her former beauty and loveliness vanished and the danger become evident? Yes, Venerable Sir. Monks, this too is a danger in material form. Again, one might see that same woman as a corpse thrown aside in the charnel ground, 1, 2, or 3 days dead, bloated, livid, oozing matter. Now this really sounds disgusting, but that's what's going to happen with your body. Except we eat so many preservatives these days that it takes a lot longer for that to happen. What do you think, monks? Has her former beauty and loveliness vanished and the danger become evident? Yes, Venerable Sir. Monks, this too is a danger in the case of material form. Again, one might see that same woman as a corpse thrown aside in the charnel ground, being devoured by crows, hawks, vultures, dogs, jackals, and various kinds of worms. A skeleton with flesh and blood, held together with sinew. A fleshless skeleton smeared with blood, held together with sinew. A skeleton without flesh and blood, held together with sinew. Connected bones scattered in all directions. Here a hand bone, there a foot bone, there a thigh bone, there a rib bone, here a hip bone, there a backbone, here a skull, bones bleached white, the color of shells, bones heaped up, bones more than a year old, rotted and crumbled to the dust. What do you think, monks? Has her former beauty and loveliness vanished and the danger become evident? Yes, Venerable Sir. Monks, this too is a danger in the case of material form. And what, monks, is the escape in the case of material form? It is the removal of lust and desire, the abandonment of desire and lust for material things. This is the escape in the case of material form. That those recluses and Brahmins who do not understand as it actually is, the gratification is gratification, the danger is danger, and the escape as escape in the case of material form, can neither themselves fully understand material form or instruct another so he can fully understand material form. That is impossible. That those recluses and Brahmins who understand as it actually is the gratification, the danger as danger, and the escape as escape of material form can either themselves fully understand material form or instruct another to do so. That is possible. Feeling. And what, monks, is the gratification in the case of feelings? Here, monks, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a monk enters upon and abides in the first jhana, which is accompanied by thinking and examining thought, with joy and happiness born of seclusion. On such an occasion, he does not choose for his own affliction or for another's affliction, or for the affliction of both. On that occasion, he feels only feeling that is free from affliction. The highest gratification in the case of feelings is freedom from affliction, I say. Again, with the stilling of thinking and examining thought, a monk enters upon and abides in the second jhana. With the fading away of joy, he enters upon and abides in the third jhana. With the abandoning of pleasure and pain, he enters upon and abides in the fourth jhana, on account of which he does not choose for his own affliction or for another's affliction or the affliction of both. On that occasion, he feels only feeling that is free from affliction. The highest gratification in the case of feelings is freedom from affliction. That's a really good point to make, because not all joyful things are unwholesome. So we went through a lot of austerities and these kind of things that the Buddha went through. And the reason that he was going through those austerities because he was afraid of getting attached to the relief, the joy. And when he sat down on the night of his awakening, he got into the first jhana and realized not all joy has attachment to it. And it's okay, it's wholesome, it's fine to have that kind of joy arise. For right now, what's happening in a lot of Buddhist communities is they're focusing so heavily on suffering, and they're afraid of joy coming up, that they really don't understand the Buddha's teaching very well.
So they're using the word affliction to mean attachment?
Yeah. Any kind of attachment. That is an affliction. So, when I was doing straight Vipassana in Burma, if I had any joy come up and I'd go and tell the teacher about it, the first thing they said was, "Don't get attached." Which to me said, push that joy away, stop the joy from coming up. And that's a mistake. That's why I try to get you to be happy. Smile, because joy is a good thing. Unless you try to hold on to it all the time. If you try to make it be there when it's not there, you're going to cause yourself suffering. But when you allow joy to be, it's a very pleasant experience. When you're smiling more and you're smiling all the time, joy will come up by itself. Allow it to be there. You treat it the same as a painful feeling, right? It doesn't matter whether it's there or not. Let it be there by itself. It's much easier to endure than it is a painful feeling, for sure. That's why we get attached to it. I want to keep that joy going. I like that. Well, that's a kind of sensual pleasure, isn't it? And look at what kind of dangers you get into with sensual pleasures. Your job is to develop equanimity, so it doesn't matter whether the joy is there. You can enjoy it while it's there, but don't hold on to it. Yes, that's nice. Good. Okay. But when a painful feeling comes up, that has to be good. That has to be nice. It's the same coin, different sides. But it's real easy to get attached to the dislike of that, to the aversion of that, to the repulsive nature of painful feeling. We try to run away from painful feeling as much as we can. And that just causes more and more suffering.
So, you just 6R joy if it's taking you off the object?
Well, you start liking it too much. It's just a feeling. What do you do with any feeling that arises? Right after that feeling arises, what rises right after that? And the craving is the start of the problems. When you start taking it personally. It's okay for joy to be there, just like it has to be okay for pain to be there. It has to be okay, because that's the truth. When it's there, it's there. As you allow that pain to be there by itself, and relax into it, and don't keep your attention on it, that means don't get involved with the story of it. Just notice that that pain is there. Okay, fine, it's there. Allow it to be. The highest gratification in the case of feelings is freedom from affliction. When you're in the jhana, there is no affliction. There is no distraction. Your mind becomes very balanced and at ease. And that's the advantage of practicing TWIM. That's the advantage of practicing the 6 R's. But it's not a magic bullet. It's not going to make it go away with 1 or 2 letting it be. If your attachment is strong, it's going to keep coming back. Again, what is the cause of this kind of attachment? Always. It doesn't matter what arises. The attachment is always I am. I want. I don't want. And it gets to be very subtle. Sometimes it can be incredibly subtle. And there's tension and tightness that you don't really notice so much. But as your mindfulness improves, you go deeper into your meditation. You stay with your object of meditation for longer periods of time. That's where your mind is pure. That's where your mind has no affliction in it. When your mindfulness slips, the affliction comes. And the affliction is always, I am that. And this is caused from past actions. And these past actions will come up because you broke the precept. And breaking a precept means that you did something to make your mind feel guilty. You killed some beings, you took something that wasn't given, you had wrong sexual activity, which is, it doesn't mean you have to be celibate. It means that you have to follow the laws of the land. Now, in Muslim countries, they're allowed to have 4 wives, although I don't know why anybody would want 4 wives. But that's just my personal. Well, they don't do it that way. But there are places in India where a woman can come into a family that has 5 or 6 brothers, and she marries all of them. So that she's always available, as it were. But
equal politically correct.
I've often wondered about that, but it's mostly because men are so macho, they can't allow that sort of thing to happen. But it makes more sense. Anyway, not having sexual activity with somebody else's mate, not having sexual activity with somebody that's too young, not having sexual activity that causes pain to arise in anyone. So, and then we come to speech, which is probably the biggest and the hardest one to master. Not saying something that's not true, trying to fool people. Cursing. I get real tired of listening to the cursing that happens, and I was absolutely shocked when I came back from Asia after 12 years listening to the radio and the cursing that was going on there, and then watching television and the foul language that's creeping in more and more and more. They think it's cute, but it's really offensive.
Well, here's a question. When you have a memory come up where, say, you use bad words, curse words, in talking to someone else or in some situation, and that memory,
Forgive yourself for doing it.
that's not breaking a precept, though. I mean, just the fact of...
You know, but you have the guilty feeling, don't you? You don't want that coming up and disturbing you during your meditation, so forgive yourself for doing it. Make a determination not to do it again. And continue on. It's way downplayed, the precepts in this country. And it's because of there's some religions that they really need you to feel guilty so that you can start paying your penance. And the people, the priests that have the direct phone to God can clear it for you. Well, part of forgiveness is letting go of your secrets. Okay? One of the definitions of an arahat is someone that has no more secrets. So, letting go of your secrets for in yourself, or telling somebody else of the secrets that you have, it's no longer a secret. I did this, I did that. When I was a young boy, I told a lie to my mom, and I felt really guilty after that. I carried that guilt around for years until I finally started realizing that that attachment was causing a lot of suffering. And as soon as I told somebody else about it, which was a very hard thing to do, but when you do, there's real relief. So the important part of forgiveness is learning how to let go of those secrets so that they don't upset you anymore. And you don't identify with the grief of going through that and taking it personally. And what, monks, is the escape in the case of feelings? It is the removal of desire and lust. I am. I want. The abandonment of desire and lust for feelings, certain feelings to come up. This is the escape in the case of feelings, that those recluses and Brahmins who do not understand it as it actually is, the gratification as gratification, the danger as danger, and the escape as escape, in case of feeling, can neither themselves fully understand feelings nor instruct another so that they can understand that. That those recluses and Brahmins who understand actually the gratification, the danger, and the escape, in the case of feelings, they can fully understand feelings and instruct others so they can fully understand it. That's what the Blessed One said. The monks were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. The whole point of learning the Brahma Viharas is to have an open heart. It can't be completely open until you have let go of some of the old attachments. Some of the old fears, some of the old anxieties, some of the old dislikes. And it can be surprising, some of the things that can come up. But you have to allow it, relax, smile, come back and do it some more. Forgive it. Okay? Okay, why don't we share some merit? May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.